we have day off, but
Well,
That's when you're very sleepy
we
from the
could
weather.
go home early. I don't mind that. Yeah.
yeah. So we usually start from saying the names so we know each other. So you're Valerie and Tony.
Yeah. Okay. Bob and Kat.
He is Bob and I'm Kat. Yeah. So you want to start?
No, you can start.
Okay. So the non-duality, as you mentioned, as you heard from Terry, is the base of all the traditions. Like in Buddhism, you have part of non-duality that says that, what is it? Self-shining, ever-fresh
Presence
awareness.
Just this, nothing else.
And just this, nothing else, basically means that everything else is bullshit. I mean, it's only the presence of awareness or awareness of presence that is self-shining and is always there that matters. And nothing else. Everything else, Buddhism call it Maya or illusion. Actually, Hinduism call it Maya. Hinduism, yes. Buddhism call it...
Samsara?
Yes, and also they call it form is emptiness. Emptiness is form, basically showing that whatever is, that emptiness shapes all the forms. It actually manifests itself as a form. So basically, if the presence awareness is the reality, and everything else is illusion, is not real, like self-shining, ever-fresh, presence awareness, just this, nothing else. So nothing else is real. Means that the whole world of the appearances is not real. Starting from the body, starting from any material objects, sounds, sights, and most of all, the self-image that we have of ourselves, that's not real. In Hinduism, the Advaita Vedanta, they say that, yes, the world is Maya, is illusion, is a phenomenal manifestation. You want to add?
That's what I say that in Buddhism, but in Hinduism they call it Satchitananda. Being, knowing, or loving to be is the way it's translated, or existence, consciousness, bliss. Or awareness of being is bliss. Different ways they put it. And the other two factors are nama rupa, name and form. And the name and form are Maya, or illusion. And the Buddha adds to that when he told you that the name and form, or the manifestation, is Maya. It's a phenomenal manifestation. What's your dictionary definition of phenomena? That which appears to be. So you, me, and everything in this manifestation is appearance only. But the very life essence of you is the same essence as rolling the earth around the sun, causing the seasons to come and go, forming galaxies out there, planets, stars, and all the rest of it, and breathing you, it's beating your heart, growing your hair in your fingernails, and that one essence is doing everything. And we're taking on this idea we're a separate entity, an individual, or a person. Where does that idea of person come from? An ancient language, I think it was Greek, persona, the mask, pointing out we've got this mask of identity on ourselves. Your name and form, the label you put upon yourself, though we take it to be real, it's only a label, the same as the label here. Bob. That's not what I am. I am that awareness, uncontaminated presence awareness. Are you unaware right now?
Sorry?
Are you unaware right now?
I'm aware.
No, you're aware. Are you conscious?
Yeah.
No, you're conscious. Are you happy to be?
Yeah.
And that's the bliss of the loving to be. So you are that Satchitananda. Now who do you take the I or the me to be?
Huh?
Who do you take the I or me when you say I am happy? What are you referring to?
The ego.
Yes. And what's the ego? Vanessa.
Valerie.
Valerie.
Mm.
That's
Ego is what it's our like personality that you take
yes,
on.
a label you put on. Label. And is the label the real? Okay, you know, can you say the word water is water? It's not enough. The word fire doesn't burn your mouth. So the word I and me, is that what you really are? Need to investigate it. See, this ego is a fiction. There never was such a thing. Ego brings around a sense of separation. Me, we call it me, or myself. But how many selves are there? When the Buddhas will tell you the great perfection is self-shining, ever-fresh presence awareness, just as nothing else. It's only the one self that's appearing, patterning, shaping and forming and appearing as everything. And the things that appear in it are the Maya or illusion. Things. You and I are things. What are we appearing in? Space, silence or stillness. Now the space or the stillness is no thing. Isn't it? Can you give space a form? Can you give the silence a form? So space and form are no thing. Can something come from nothing? Can something come from no thing?
Isn't that the Big Bang?
Big Bang.
Big Bang. That's a thing. That's a thing. When did that happen? Can you postulate a time when it happened? We'll say billions of light years, but then when you investigate time, is there such a thing as time?
Concept?
Hmm?
Time is a concept.
Is there a past if you don't think about it? Is there a future if you don't think about it? So past and future are concepts, mental concepts. But you'll say, I was in the past. I'll say, well, try and go back and live a moment ago. Try and go back and live yesterday. Or last week, can you? No. I can only live in this presence right now. And the same with the future. Can you anticipate and imagine a time when you leave here or what you'll do next?
Well, we can imagine, but
Yeah. So the imagination is not the actuality. So you see, you don't have to try and stay in the now with people. Try and get out of it. It's always this immediacy. Everything is happening in this moment. Fresh and new each moment. Ever fresh presence awareness. Presence is right here and nowness. Awareness is the knowing of that right now. So you are that presence awareness, not the pattern, shape and form you put in yourself. And have a look at that. When did you begin?
there's no beginning.
No, there's no beginning, but you'll say, I began at birth. But can you remember your birth? So how do you know you began at birth? Only what people have told you, and you see other things being born, but you can't remember your birth. Well, when did you begin? We'll have a look at that. We'll go back to your father and your mother. That life essence, the animating intelligence energy, eaten by the food and the prana, the energy and the food eaten by your father, enabled in that pattern a little microscopic particle called a sperm to form. You can't see it with your naked eye. The same animating life essence in your mother made another little microscopic particle called an ovum or an egg to form. Now that ovum or egg, though you can't see it with your naked eye, was suffused with intelligence and energy, knowing what to do, it knew what to do. It attached itself to the wall of the uterus. And the sperm, same intelligence and energy, knew what to do. It swam the ovum, it had the capacity of swimming. And it knew where to swim to. And when those two came together, what did that cell do?
Embryo. Forms an embryo.
Yeah, formed a little embryo, a little fetus. And that's what you are today. That little embryo and fetus has grown and grown every day, and that's what you are today. So how can you say you are this human form or person? We've taken on the belief. But about, when you were born, the first couple of years of your life, you didn't have any words. So that's why you can't remember your birth. And then when your capacity of reasoning developed in you, and the Tibetans, Buddhists will tell you that, there's a reasoning capacity in these human forms. When that capacity of reasoning formed in you, you'll begin to learn words. You learn words of your parents and your mother and your father. and realising that every word you've ever spoken or ever likely to speak has been learnt, because you were not born with any word. And you're probably learning new words to this day and forgetting old ones. You know, you've got a dictionary there, you pick up new words out of it. So you must realise that you can't be the word. The word is not the thing. So have a look at that. Every word you've learnt, but the word's not the real, because you can't drink the word water, the word fire won't burn you out. What's this I or me when you start looking at it like that?
It's a word.
Well, the ego, the self-centre.
Yeah.
You'll see that I and me, that's me, Valerie, me that's for human form. But not realise you put that label on it. All these words we've ever learnt are labels we've put on the word. This is good, this is bad, this is pleasant, painful, this is happy, this is me, that's you. And the 5 factors, Satchitananda Namarupa, they tell you the Mahavakya, or the great mantra, is I am that. That is what I am. That's Satchitananda Namarupa. But because we've learnt words, we don't believe that. We take I am, that's this body, mind, this ego. So we put the label on the idea or me as me. We think me is myself. But you know you're not the body or the mind because you say my body by the same token. But you're not the body, you say my mind. Don't you say my house, my car, my coat, my hat? Are you the coat? Are you the car? Are you the house? Are you the cat? You're not. So they're all mine. So when you say myself, maybe you're not that self either. You've got the conceptual self you've taken on board. But you must be the real self, the one self. And that's what I say, it's no personal self. That self we call me or I, that becomes a personal self. That's me, Valerie, the good girl or the bad girl or the unhappy girl or the sad girl, whatever concepts you put upon you. And they're the egoic images you've got about yourself. And that implies me and the other. This is me, but that's not me. So when the idea comes up, me and not me, what have you done? You've separated yourself from the totality to the believed in separate entity, me and the other. But is there any separation? Only appears to be so. And you look at this ego, you can't do much with I or me, so what we've done, we've added to ourselves events, images, concepts, ideas and forms are added onto that, me or I, to give it seeming some substance, some solidity. I'm Bob, I'm Australian, I'm a good fella, I'm not so good, I'm unhappy, I'm depressed, I was abused, I'm anxious. All these concepts are added onto that I form. And we take them to be real, put the energy of belief into them and take them to be real because we never question them. But when you look at another one, said that the I is just a label we put on that essence. So we've added all these concepts to this I, now we've got this substantial entity, me, Bob. And what happens to that? Something comes up, and me, Bob, I like it. How do you know? Well, I've had it before. That's good. And we don't want the good things to go. We want to keep them there. Not realising this manifestation is transient. It's constantly and ever changing. Look as it is right now. Even your body's changing. You haven't got the same body you walked in this room with. You just still say I and me. There are thousands of cells dying in it right at this moment and being replaced. So it's constantly transient, changing. So something comes up and we like it. We don't want the good things to go. Try and keep them there at any cost, not realising that they're transient No matter how much you love them or how much you want to keep them there, it's going to move on. They're going to die, they're going to leave you, they're going to change. Just the same as you're going to change. We don't want it to go, so we try and keep it there. In trying to keep it there, what are we doing? We're resisting it from going, thinking we're resisting it. And don't you realise any resistance you are in conflict. Resistance is conflict. And any conflict you are in makes you unhappy, depressed, anxious, fearful, guilty, jealous, envious. All that coming about because of this resistance. So what happens when the bad things come up?
Aversion.
Aversion.
Yeah. Greed, aversion. Well, you don't like them. Instead of trying to get rid of them, we try to keep them there. We try to keep them there, we try to get rid of the lot. So again, there's resistance. Again, conflict. Again, desire. So see all this egoic image relating to that constantly, it gets you into all these psychological problems. What happens if you're not resisting any of it? Just leaving it as it is.
Acceptance.
Acceptance.
Not a matter of accepting or rejecting, just leaving everything as it is, unaltered, unmodified, uncorrected. Where are yesterday's thoughts now?
Gone.
Where are last week's thoughts? Where are tomorrow's thoughts? Haven't happened yet. So you see, this constant resistance is going on. It's keeping these thoughts there longer than they should be. Leave them as it is. What is? I tell you that in the Dog Chen teachings too, Tibetan Buddhism. Leaving things as it is leaving unaltered, unmodified, uncorrected. Just leave everything as it is. And like yesterday's thoughts, which are gone now, but they hung around longer than they should have, because we put the energy of belief into them. The fear and the anxiety stuck around, the jealousy and envy stuck around longer than they should have. But if you're leaving everything as it is, it's quicker to move on, and you're going to be free of them. How long does a cloud stay in the sky? How long does a cloud stay in the sky?
Until it rains. Until it rains.
Yeah, which might be very quickly, or the wind might blow it away, or it'll come down as rain. It doesn't stay very long. And there's no cloud attached to the sky. How many thoughts attached in your head?
Quite a few.
Well, that's what you need to have a look and see how many are. If the clouds are not attached to the sky, and yesterday's thoughts are gone, aren't you going to realise, well, there's not so many thoughts attached to my head after all? And when you're free of the thoughts, you're free for a fresh and new thought to come. For thought, feeling or emotion. You see, they're all one and the same thing. You can't burst into tears right now. First a sad thought will arise. Keep it there for a longer while, the emotion will come up. Keep that emotion there for a little while, and the tears will come. See, and the fears and all that, so see how the things are working. And it's all because of this thinking. Shakespeare told you that a couple hundred years ago. He says, nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. And that's true. What's wrong with right now if you don't think about it? What can you say without a thought? What can you say without a thought?
Nothing.
Nothing. You can't say it's good or bad without a thought. So you're not labelling it. And it's free to move on. Now you can look along these lines and investigate and see for yourself, or you can do all sorts of practices and try and get rid of it, but you've probably done a lot of practices looking at this stuff now. Why haven't you got rid of it?
Haven't really put it into practice.
Yeah. And realise also you're looking in the wrong direction. You're thinking you're going to fix it with the mind, with another thought, with another concept. But when we say here is the answer's not in the mind. That's why the ancients called it you'll never ever get peace of mind The ancients call it the peace that passes all understanding, because it can't be grasped with the mind. And understanding is thinking. So a peace that passes beyond the thinking, that's where the peace is. Look along those lines and see for yourself. And then so you realise you looked for it so many times long in the mind, couldn't find the answer. It might just dawn on you after a while, maybe I've been looking in the wrong direction. I've been looking in the mind for the answer. That's not there. Instead of trying to keep futilely searching for it by this practice or this meditation or this and that, maybe just look, maybe if I'm looking in the wrong direction, what way can I look which is not in the mind? What you say?
Out of the mind.
Out of the mind.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. When you realise that, that's good. And what way can you get out of the mind? Full stop. Full stop.
Yeah.
What's wrong with right now if I don't think about it? You've got to pause the thought for that. And without a thought, you haven't disappeared, you haven't fallen apart. You let that Satchitananda, the loving to be, rise up in it, because it's not being filtered through a conceptual image, or it's not being filtered through a past event or experience, or anxiousness or a fearfulness or anything. Just left as it is. Not impeded, not anything, it rises up naturally of itself. And you'll start to recognise the joyousness of life, of being. Being, another way of putting it, being, knowing and loving to be. Are you not being right now?
I'm being.
You're being. There it is. But don't add the this and that to it. I'm being Valerie or this or that, just pure being. And you know that in your language too. You call God, if you believe in a God, the Supreme Being. And you call yourself a human being. What if you take that label human off and take the label Supreme off and try and separate the beingness in this room without putting a label on it? And you realise that's being a chair, that's being a you, that's being a carpet, it's being me, it's being the paintings on the wall, it's being outside, being all the trees, the flowers. It's only that one being. And you are that being. Not many beings, just the one. That's non-duality. One without a second. So you can have a go now.
Enlightenment in a nutshell. Doesn't get clearer and more to the point than that.
Are you studying different philosophies? You just look around the field because...
I'm not looking around. I'm interested, so I'm like kind of having an understanding of like different philosophies, but I'm like more into like Tibetan Buddhism, but I think it ties in with the non-duality part.
Oh, yeah.
The core of Buddhism is like emptiness, which says that like something is not independent of its parts, so nothing has inherent existence.
Yeah.
So it's empty of inherent existence. So that ties in with non-duality.
It does, yes.
Yeah.
And you actually can you actually see it? Do you really understand it?
I
How is
haven't
that
like
true?
fully experienced it, but on an intellectual level, I can understand it. But I haven't experienced it myself, like in the like without the intellect. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
I haven't.
Me
I don't-
either.
Isn't that an experience when you pause the thought? There's nothing wrong.
Oh.
But then the thoughts come flying back in.
But appreciate that moment.
Temporary,
I do.
like during
Yeah,
meditation.
that's the, you appreciate that you can do that. Not everyone
Yeah.
can
Well,
see that.
are you unaware right now?
I've always
I'm aware.
no unaware.
Aware.
Yeah.
Are you not being right now?
I'm being.
Are you happy to be right now?
No.
Johnny is not happy to be.
It's okay to be. I'm not suicidal.
Yeah, depending like happy.
Depends
Yeah,
on
sometimes
the
I'm happy.
definition of happiness.
The thought comes back in.
Well, the other
Yeah.
way around, can you negate that? You say you're not,
Doesn't come in, you've got
you are being. Can you negate that beingness?
In Box Hill the other day.
I'm being.
Yeah, well, you better.
Yeah.
So you are already that.
Yeah, but I'm trying to like make myself fully aware that I'm already there.
Me too. I want to get it sometime.
some future time, I imagine.
What way would you be fully aware of it?
When?
Yeah.
When I'm awakened.
Are you asleep now?
I'm awake in a dream.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
No,
right.
no, I'm awake, but I'm still in a dream.
That's
I
right.
haven't.
But you know you're in the
Is it-
dream.
Yeah, but I
It's
haven't like fully experienced.
But the thing is, wait a minute, look at this. The thing is, you're not fully awake,
No.
and what's blocking that fully awakeness is the thoughts and feelings, isn't it? Yeah. Well, there's your answer.
Yeah.
Pause of thought.
So if you stop thinking that you are not fully awake, if you stop thinking that there is something that has to be grasped in the future, if you don't think for a moment at all,
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong.
Yes.
That's it.
That's it.
That's it. Seriously.
You just
People
get more
think
of
that enlightenment is some huge event that comes with the fireworks and the... seriously.
And the Big Bang.
And yes, and people think that now I am enlightened, so I have all the wisdom and all the understanding and all that. The enlightenment is the dissolution of the I. So there is just empty shell of the body, and there is sounds, sights, everything expressing through the body, but there is no one here inside. There is no little dwarf inside, or little ego, or whatever we call it, little I, that says, oh, I have understood, or I have grasped it. Enlightenment is the absence of that little thing. It's just life expressing freely. So if you stop thinking, there is no ego, because you have the ego is made of thoughts. So if for a moment, just for a fracture of a second, you don't think, you answer Bob twice already, there's nothing wrong with right now unless you think. So if you don't think, it's nothing wrong. There is no ego. There is no one to grasp anything. There is nothing to become. Enlightenment in future doesn't exist. This is all in imagination, all in thoughts. So the moment when you pause the thought, you're already fully empty of any inherent existence, like Buddhism say it. Or you empty, you free from the ego, you free from beliefs, and you free from any obstacles. In that fracture of a second, you are pure existence, expressing and experiencing itself as everything. Only when the thought comes, thought will tell you, no, I am this, and the world is not me. The thought creates the separation. So in that moment between the thoughts, you are already fully enlightened, fully awake in the dream. Yes, in the dream. The dream goes on. But the dream is not a problem. Like Bob met Nisargadatta 42 or 43 years ago, and since then he is awake in the dream. And the time will come when he will be awake from the dream. But let's not look forward to it.
Another 10 years or so.
Let's hope he will stay here as long as he can. Because when you recognize dream for what it is, when you recognize dream for a dream, it doesn't hurt anymore. When the thought comes up, oh yeah, but I'm stupid and ugly and I'm not getting it and I'm not enlightened, and then you know, oh, it's just a thought. You don't even listen to it. It doesn't matter. It doesn't hurt you. You don't take it on board, so it doesn't really do anything. Like any thought that comes through my head is just a thought. So whether it is a good thought, positive thought, negative thought, who cares?
Or even the thought that all these little moments have to be holding hands forever,
Mm.
or even with tiny breaks. It's just a thought, and it's just a random prioritization over lots of, the odd little moment when the stop happens, or all of them holding hands. So I've never had the holding hands moments very long at all, but I've, maybe 100 or hundreds of little ones in a day, or maybe 4, in a day. But there's just a turning up to this sort of stuff, and more of them happening, and the more joy, things are lighter because there are just less moments of thought, really. And reactions. So Bob has a reaction response thing I find useful. Response is just like, I used to work with a guy with an intellectual disability, and when it started raining, he's going like that, and then I realised I was going, oh no, rain is horrible. Whoa. And I just went like that, and I was like, I had no thought about it. I was having fun. It was just responding. There was a response to the moment instead of reactions and holdings and body responses and thoughts and feelings.
Like non-attachment.
Yeah, non-attachment, that's a good concept also, quite helpful. Because if you recognize everything as the appearance, as a passing cloud, you don't attach to the cloud, you just let them come and go. Thoughts, feelings, emotions, scenes, sights, everything.
Something moves you to look into non-duality, so your life intelligence is doing it.
Yeah.
Dualism is the only problem we've got, because it's non-dual. One without a second is only the one essence, patterning, shape and form. Every ism comes from dualism. Capitalism, communism, Catholicism, Protestantism, Judaism.
Communism come from duality.
And
Yeah.
Communism is about attaining the same level of wealth, isn't it?
But they have to be in a group, and there's such a thing as wealth. It's still a concept. If you're not thinking about it, where's the
And
wealth?
oppressors and all that stuff.
Where's the poverty? Where's the one big group concept, even when you're not thinking about it?
Non-duality says that there is just one essence. Everything is made of one essence, just like every wave is made of the same water, of the same ocean. So there is no room for two. So everything is just basically one. It only labels that separate things. Because as you know from physics, they are just bundle of electrons floating here and around in the space. And it's not more in this one than it is here. It's just more or less the same. It's just that through the conditioning and the way we are kind of learn to label things and hear the sound in silence, the device the body mind machine is equipped. The world has been segregated, separated, organized into separate units. But objectively, there is nothing separate here. Just like the waves are not separate from the water that they are. So everything that says there is more than one is already called duality. So in communism, it's already duality because there is communism and non-communism. So that's already two.
Yeah, because I heard that duality is also part of non-duality.
yeah, they're both two ends of the one stick. Can't have a one-ended stick.
Yeah.
You say you're looking at the Gita.
I started reading it, but I haven't got far.
Yeah. Well, it tells you the fire can't burn itself, the wind can't dry itself, the water can't wash itself, the air can't breathe itself.
Bhagavad Gita is about the fight.
Yeah.
Arjuna and...
And that's in it, though. That's some of the statement.
Oh yeah, but yeah, most of the attention goes to the war.
Yeah.
Yeah, but really, basically, the non-duality is all about just finding out if the that's the shortcut, the easiest way out of the suffering that Buddha was talking. There is a way out of suffering, is to actually see if there is really anyone there who is suffering. Who is that me that is suffering? Who is that, like when Bob was saying, that one who wants, the attraction and repulsion, or the aversion and the desire? Who is that one who thinks that this moment as it is no good, or this body as it is no good? It should be better. It desires something. Okay, I don't want the extra 2 kilos. I want some extra money. That pattern, that movement in the movement of the mind, saying that reality as it is no good. It has to be changed. It has to be bettered, beautified. That me, that object that has these preferences and it relates everything, is called ego. But is it real? When you look inside, what is it that wants to have more money or more whatever? Or what is it that doesn't want what is it that actually wants the world different than it is? Other than just a stream of thought. Because
I just keep forgetting all the time. I remember a lot.
yes.
Yeah. Then I forget.
Yeah, and then the one who forgets and the one who remembers is not who you are, because the remembering and the forgetting is just another stream of thought. It's like the desire is a movement in the stillness, is the grasping movement, or the resistance is the pushing away movement.
When I remember, I can pause a thought. When I've forgotten, I forget to do that.
But even
come back as much as it can.
Yeah, I do.
Spontaneously pops up more often.
I do.
Mostly
a
people,
lot.
I guess.
Every day I work on it.
And then you start to see it's not you working on it, and you just notice that it spontaneously happened out of nowhere. Yeah.
And pausing the thought is just really required once. Really, if you actually, just for once, if you see that without the thought, you don't fall apart, you're still existing, you're still conscious. Even without thinking, the world is going on perfectly well. The seeing is happening, you know, the body is seeing, hearing, tasting.
All that stuff I've learned here.
Yeah.
Makes perfect
So
sense.
now you don't really need to pause the thought ever again. You already learned from from this little pause in the thought, you've already learned everything you ever needed to.
And it'll probably pause itself then.
Yeah, pauses happen.
That'd be-
Yeah.
Sometimes a little phrase, pause of thought, might turn up at the same time. You'd have to start making shit up, basically making stuff up to assume one leads to the other, or what the causality might be, you know, because really you just notice an ocean popping up, you notice, and I've noticed a space where nothing's going on, and I've noticed a belief that was there before, and I've also noticed it after. So you could say it dropped away in one case and it turned up afterwards in the other. I've noticed both. And but I know that there was emptiness and the specific thing that was on either side. There was a memory of what it was and what it was like to be there. So, you know, you just don't really know. So it's suspicious that certain pointers are popping up, but that's all you can say about it. You know, suspiciously there was an empty moment. Suspiciously those certain pointers turned up. But I'm pretty grounded in that they are just turning up. Like, to me, it doesn't seem any other way. But if I'm in the little iCloud, I don't really notice things like the spontaneity of things popping up. There's just a stream of stuff going on, you know.
Yeah. So Tony, you don't really struggle with that one anymore either. You know that things just pop up.
The blah blah blah.
The thoughts, the commentary, the scenery, the sounds, everything. There's no difference.
That's absolutely fine.
Yeah.
I'm aware of
So
that.
you're not doing any of it. You know that you're not doing it.
You know, thoughts are, words, all that stuff. And,
And you notice such thing as decision making?
No, I still think there is some decision making.
Yeah, decision making is yes, absolutely there. But is there someone, a person, that is doing that process?
Well, I can see that I could be choosing fear or love, and I choose the love one.
But who is the choice maker? You see
This could be my core being, not the ego, perhaps. I don't know.
Yeah, but can you describe that core being? The one who is actually performing action.
I sort of feel like the core one is my immediate response to a situation,
And
Like
and then
if
and you
there was
also
a car accident or something, that one might pop out and help without thought.
and you are aware of it, right? You're aware of that core being popping out.
Or you just notice an activity happens of
I
popping
notice
out?
an activity happens.
Well, there you already don't believe in the core being.
Well, wait a few seconds.
Yeah, notice when, especially when there is seeming apparent choice to be happening, that you have seemingly option number 1, choose love, option number 2, choose fear. See if there is anyone who actually makes a choice, or is it just a natural pull toward one option and natural push towards the other? See if there is just movement, or is there somebody that does a choosing?
It does feel more like movement.
There you go. So movement is something like, is there anyone who is blowing the wind? Or is that a movement of the branches on the trees?
Well, what is it, that one, the flag and the 3?
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly, yeah.
I can't
And
remember what
same
it
with,
was, but yes.
yeah, attraction to love rather than fear may happen at some points. At some other points, there may be completely different movement happening. It depends on the environment. If you have the lion out free from the zoo, you may not choose love at that point. Who knows? So this is just an activity happening. So if you actually see Because this is about recognizing the redundancy of that I. If you actually see that there is a content, content in the sphere of seeing, there are different objects, seeing, hearing, thinking, there are different content happening, and there is nobody who does or choose or do anything about it.
Well, before I learned words, or when I arrived, currently, and before the conditioning happened, and another thing is I do feel as though there is some sort of reincarnation of beings, of core beings, but not intellect and that stuff, that appeals to me at this point in time.
Well, if it's never ended, Tony, how can it begin again?
Yeah,
if it never ended, how could it begin again?
Yeah, the core being is reincarnated right now in every one of us, in every chair, carpet, wall, light, and everything
all
else.
These 7 billion individuals sort of...
Yeah, that's the core being.
Whatever you want to call them.
And the chair on which you sit is also incarnated into the chair. So you, as the core being,
form or whatever that's
constitute
taking shape
everything.
and disappearing.
Yes.
But in the noticing, because I think I have an astuteness to when it starts to become a piece of logic that's made up, which is why I don't hold too well with the awareness, things popping out of awareness. To me, that becomes a logical thing.
Sorry, could you...
So basically, I notice when something's just going into head logic and when something's experience. I might not be too au fait with the experience, but I know when it's logic.
Oh, okay.
So if I just notice there's a movement to one thing, it might be apparent choice to others, but there's a movement to one thing, and there might have been a movement notion about one thing and a notion then about another and then a notion.
And one's logical and the other's
well,
illogical.
if then there's the thought, oh, that must be a core doing that, that's pure logic.
Yeah, whatever you call it.
Yeah, that's just pure logic to me, and logic is just words and thoughts and absolutely nothing to do with the experience. So for all intents and purposes, this, and every time I look, for all intents and purposes, this immediacy can only ever come up with a core being through logic. A little head story.
See if there is any core being if you don't think about it.
Yeah.
Because that's actually, if you didn't see everything just
I think
yet.
that's part of the awareness.
Yeah, you think, as you say, you think is a
Yeah.
part of the awareness. But what do you know if you stop thinking?
Just awareness.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so this is really, I mean, as I said before, it's only enough to pause the thought once and then learn everything you can from that moment, or contemplate on it and see the implications of that. But if all of the implications didn't land yet, of course, use every gap between the thoughts to actually see it again and again and again and again.
Well, obviously they just keep turning up now. They might have some that pointer with them, or they might not. They may have totally different ones. But it just turns up at the moment of rest. It just turns out. And sometimes it feels like you can say it feels like rest or peace or various other things, or there's some satisfaction or a bit of joy comes in after, or all various things can go on. But what you absolutely know is that no meaning making is happening.
Yeah.
Nothing is being made of anything through the head. That's the only thing I can really say about any of it, those short moments. And then there's cloudy moments, and I really just kind of have to assume that some meaning making's in there because they're not that clear. And it's just flash from, just can be the quickest flash. And then some feeling in my body assumes there was another flash of meaning making in there too. Because now there's some reaction in the body, it usually gets labelled a fear or labelled something. But like you often say, then you just write it, you just, when you don't, that doesn't matter,
Yeah, it doesn't matter. You're just watching the sky. It's really about watching different clouds will come up. There will be clouds that are rainy clouds, or there will be nice, beautiful clouds, or there will be a storm coming up on the sky, or there will be a beautiful sunny day with no clouds at all. It's just basically watching the sky, and whatever comes out.
Doesn't come, then they just go
Yeah.
faster. They go away faster.
And if the judgment cloud comes up, that's just another cloud. If the meaning-making cloud comes up, that's just another cloud. Everything that comes up is a content. And every piece of content is recognized from that, from its opposite, from that stillness or the absence of content, from the emptiness. Every form thought form or the cloud form or the sound form or any form is recognized from the point of formless. This is where the form and emptiness come, the duality of form and emptiness. In Hinduism they call it Shiva Shakti. Shiva is the consciousness, the sky-like awareness, the formless, empty, cognizing emptiness. And the Shakti is the expression of it. When that emptiness starts vibrating, different frequency will create the sound, different frequency will create the light, yet different vibration will create the matter, the electrons, atoms. So that emptiness vibrates into all that different variety, diversity of beautiful forms. But this is still that one emptiness vibrating. So this is still that Shiva appearing as Shakti, as Maya. So that's why they call it one. Even though it seems like there is a space, and inside the space there are forms. So that seems like there are two. But they're not, because the forms are just vibration of that space. They're just, that's why they call it Maya illusion. It's just like there is no rainbow. It's just a flickering of the light. There is no mirage. Again, they're all just appearance. They appear. Or blue sea or blue sky. There is no sky isn't blue and the sea isn't blue either. They just seem to be like this. So the whole world is just a play of the appearance. And on the immediate level of this present moment, we have these five senses: hearing, seeing, tasting, touching, smelling. And they constitute the space of the whole appearance. The space of seeing, it has space actually for the forms. The space or the field of hearing, it accommodates all the sounds. The space of the body, the tastes, touches and smells and balance. So that suddenly the whole universe has been furnished with just the five senses. And that's enough. That's already pretty beautiful. But now the sixth sense come up, the thinking. And the thinking bring up the imagination, the story of the past, the story of the future, the story of having someone inside there who pulls the string, the ego or the me, or someone there inside who does decision making or choosing love over fear or something. So that all comes from the sixth sense, the reasoning capacity that people have. So this is like a overlayer. So like basic dream is seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling. So all the forms that come from vibrating of the emptiness. But now the thinking is the tricky one. I mean, it's fantastic because suddenly we don't have just one room. I can think of 1,000 rooms like this. So now instead of one dream, one universe, I can have thousands of them just in the imagination. So the creativity from the perspective of that cognizing emptiness or that absolute or that intelligence that is expressing itself, the thinking is absolutely magnificent capacity. It increases the capacity for expression thousandfolds or infinitely, but it backfires because I can imagine 1,000 other rooms, and that's fantastic. Now the space is expressing in 1,000 different ways, but the backfire is that I imagine that I am the doer, I am the thinker, I am the separate person. I can make mistakes. I should be ashamed of myself. And I am all that inferior. I have the sense of void. Like, look at other people. They're so much smarter, wiser, and more beautiful. Gosh, I'm worthless. So that comes up with taking credit for embodying that body-mind mechanism and taking credit for taking the ownership of it and assuming the separation. That also comes from thinking. When I don't think, I can't even see my feet. I don't even know I have legs. I have to think that I have legs. I definitely don't know I have face. I can only experience the space, looking out at space. That's the experience. But when I'm thinking, I'm creating my face, I'm creating my legs, I'm creating my body by thinking, imagining. And now I think that I'm not good enough, that I'm unhappy, that I'm miserable, that I should grow and become better, or I should achieve, or I need someone else to tell me that I'm worthy. I need your love and acceptance, and I will be begging for it, and I will be modifying my behavior for it, and I will be thinking that I'm doing it, and I will be making mistakes, and that's suffering. All the suffering comes up from the idea that I am this, and this one will get old, will die, will make mistakes, will be scarce of food and money, or will be excluded from society and starved. I'm just picking on different fears, just as an illustration. So it all comes up from the idea that I am this, I am the vehicle that I'm using, I'm the car that I'm driving. And now I'm going to be out of oil. What am I going to do? Oh, I'm not a nice car, I'm 20-year-old car or 40-year-old car. So the identification with the vehicle, with the machine, is as if the computer has identified with the camera that is operating or the speaker system. Yeah, this is my... No, it's not. It's just the vehicle of the expression. The space, the life, has multitude of that points in consciousness through which it has a glimpse of itself. It doesn't. The identification with the form is not required. When the identification with the form comes up, then all the desires that are just natural movement, like the cats, when I give them beef in one bowl and the kibbles in the other, they go to the beef. They have preferences. Absolutely, they love it. I mean, actually, the male one prefer beef, the female one. Anyway, they have preferences, but they have no idea that this is my opinion, this is my preference, whatever the political preference, and if someone has the opposite, I'm gonna fight and I'm gonna go for war because this is so important. My opinions and my preferences and my tastes for music or tastes for food are so important because they're mine.
So would you prefer to be a cat living like that?
I am Kat. My name is Kat.
You're just living like a cat.
And I am living like a cat, seriously. I used to be very attached to my preferences and my opinions. And oh gosh, my friends back there in Poland, they used to make fun of me. How serious I was about, how bad it is for you to drink juices with sugar. They're detrimental, they're gonna kill you. Like they say, come on, don't you exaggerate just a little bit? Oh, shut up, you don't know shit. I was so serious about every bullshit which I never actually came up with. Of course, that was somebody else's opinion that I picked up along the way. Do any of you have any opinion that nobody else share in the world?
Don't know.
They are all thoughts that we watch the TV or we watch the internet or whatever. We just pick up different thoughts. The thoughts are almost like a being on their own. They're almost like a little viruses that they just take the brain, they host it, and they. So there are no my thoughts or my opinions. They're just thoughts or opinions. None of them are mine anymore. I wouldn't stand up or fight for any of it because they're not mine anymore. But they used to be. That was painful. Not only it was laughable, but it was painful because it was very serious. I used to believe in stuff like whatever, choice making, reincarnation, stuff like this, or eating or not eating meat or stuff like this. I used to believe in it. And I had an urge to convince other people about it. Because, when I will make you believe it, then maybe I'll believe it more. Like come on, they're just thoughts. Everything is just a thought. None of it are worthy of dying for it. They're just another form. Like none of the sounds, like sound of the tram or sound of the kookaburra, none of them are worthy of fighting for. They're not serious, they're just passing phenomena like clouds. None of the cloud, the altocumulus or stratus cloud, they're not worthy of fighting or defending.
Perfect sense.
That's true.
That too.
Thank you. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, no thought, no cloud, no sound is worthy of.
I'm into is worth fighting for.
Yeah.
But still, I haven't had this shift that's quite permanent.
How about forget about the permanence and think about this moment? Because permanence comes from the idea of time. That there is some sort of... Yeah.
But it's words I'm using.
I know, but this is very often, and it used to be a trap for me. When I was a spiritual seeker for many, many years, I had moments in a prolonged, lasting for 2-3 weeks, moments of living without any self. And then I was thinking, oh yeah, well, it is stabilizing. This is about stabilizing in that freedom from relating to oneself. And even the idea of stabilizing is still the idea that is anchored in time. Because if really it's just this moment, if it seriously see that this moment is all there ever is, you don't worry about stabilizing, you don't worry about permanence, you don't worry about anchoring it or keeping it or staying there or abiding there or any of it. It's just about this moment. This moment, you are aware of your being. And if there is content, if there are clouds on the sky, if there are thoughts in the head, you are aware of those too. And that's it. That's it. There is never, ever any other moment than this one. So you don't have to worry about any other moment.
I suppose you could say, like, even though there's no value difference, but the blackest clouds are the ones that judge the judgment thoughts. So the grey ones judge the white clouds, and then the black ones judge the fact of judgment happened. But I probably found the first ones to go pretty much mostly gone. The blackest ones are mostly dropped off first, and then the grey ones sort of mostly dropped off after that.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I mean, you remember? I don't know, but I told you a few months ago or a year or so ago when most of those ones are gone, and then these ones, like, I guess a first judgment cloud is any assessment, any kind of meaning making that happens. I know any cloud is a meaning making, and then there's a judgment on meaning making, and then a judgment on the judgment, whatever. But they just start to back off and drop. I mean, maybe there is some peace in seeing more of the gaps, and then just seeing that they keep coming anyway. So less complaint thoughts come up about the fact that the clouds are still coming. But also as, like, the habitual patterns that are contractive and don't feel good, those assessments that are kind of got those feelings that are also judged to be not nice, as they start to disappear too, as they're spotted and caught dead in their tracks.
And that's so important.
And then they lose their power in so many different ways. They might just all suddenly fade off mid-sentence, or they might just, like, mean less and less and less, or they
don't grab you anymore.
Or suddenly, like, well, that's just nothing to do with the me,
Yeah.
Or even like a little me sentence is caught mid-sentence, because here there's a lot of observation, right down to the nitty-gritty. Except when I'm daydreaming for 20 minutes or days or hours at a time. But there's a lot of that, and so it's really just things being caught out. Yeah. It's cloud spotting. Just a lot of cloud spotting, and then certain ones just start to go away en masse. They just do.
Okay. So life feels better.
Oh yeah, it's been ever since I've been doing this for about 2.5 years. It's been like that.
Yeah.
It's like a snail on speed. And then with a bit of transmission for weighting, it sort of popped up a bit.
Okay.
But it's just there's no sense. Never been a sense of decision to come here at all. It's just been a movement.
Okay.
Do you have any questions?
So when let's let me think about this. So you said that there's like no actual awakening, it's just being present in the moment and like not having like other thoughts. So that's what you're supposed to experience in non-duality, right?
You think there shouldn't be any other thoughts as well?
There can be thoughts.
Yeah.
Oh, but just not be attached to the thoughts because they're illusory. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the awakening is really awakening from the illusion of being separate self. So when you know that you are not separate self, there's nobody to wake up to anything else anymore. Because if you think you are separate self, then you can't wake up from it, because the separate self cannot wake up from itself. Something else wakes up. The consciousness or the awareness actually wakes up from that identification with the separate self. So now it wakes up as the eternal screen or the basic screen or the pure awareness. So now there is nobody there, nobody else there. There's nobody home. It's an empty shell. The body is empty. The awareness is inside and out. So there's nobody to wake up from anything else.
And what's your next thought going to be?
My next thought.
What's your next thought going to be?
Yeah.
Like, what's the next? What question should I ask?
See what I mean? You can't choose your thoughts.
Yeah.
You don't know what your next thought's going to be.
Yeah,
You have to wait till the thought come up to say what it is. Before it comes up, you don't know.
But then,
And that response you gave came up, and you weren't thinking that before. I'm going to have to wait for the next thought's going to be, because you didn't even know you're going to be answered that.
Yeah.
Ask that question.
yeah,
So thoughts arise. And when you say, oh, I think, you've taken it to be a person, a thinker there. But can you think a thought? Can it? When you say, oh, I think, you form the thinker subject, and the thoughts become the object. But can there be thinker without thinking?
I'm sorry, a thinker without thinking. No.
Can there be the thought without thinking?
Can
So
They say yes.
A thought,
Yeah.
thoughts just
thoughts come up, and so there's no thinker of the thought we're pointing out. Without the thinking, there can't be a thinker. Without the thinking, there can't be a thought. So though we divided them into me and the other, the thinker and the thought, they're not divided, really. It's the same as seeing. You're seeing right now. And you say, I see. So you say, I see, you formed a subject, me, Valerie, seeing. I see the chair, I see the carpet, that become the object. Seeing has been divided dualistically into subject-object. But can there be a seer without seeing?
a seer without seeing. No.
Can there be the seen without seeing?
Sorry, seeing without seer.
Yeah, you have the process of seeing. The pure functioning is the capacity of seeing. And now this capacity has been divided. Let's say there is a me seer looking at you as seen. So if there is no seeing, if the eyes are closed, I can't say that there is you, because in the seeing there is seen, the one that I'm looking at is the seen, and the seer is the one who is looking. So without the seeing, none of it is valid. Without the capacity of seeing, there is no one who is seeing, and there is nothing that is seen.
And same with the thinking, seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling, all the functioning. As the pure seeing, hearing. When we divide it to I see, I hear, I taste, I touch, I smell, I think, we know we've formed a subject and lose sight of the truth of it.
You only need the
So
seeing for it to happen.
So the easy example is to actually see, like we are saying, I am digesting my dinner. But is it really I am doing it? The digestion is the natural happening. Digesting is going on. And now, because of the language, I say I digest it. And I digest it. But if there was no digestion, the it wouldn't be digested. And the I wouldn't be doing it. So the functioning that when Bob is saying ing, the digesting, the seeing, the hearing, the growing, the thinking, the ing on it means there is a process, there is a movement. And now within that movement, we assume that there is I and the air that I'm breathing. So the breathing is going on, but I say I am breathing air. But that's not, it's just one breathing. Yeah, and same with seeing. There is no one behind my eyes who is actually looking. There is just seeing. There is no one who is looking. And there is no one who is thinking. And there is no one who is breathing. There is just life. We are being lived by life. Just like Bob was saying, when you were growing from the little embryo, nobody was doing it. Nobody was growing your heart and your lungs. Nobody is growing your hair right now, but they're growing. Nobody is growing the grass. Nobody is blowing the wind. Nobody is moving the planets around the sun. And it is all just pure functioning. And now, on top of this pure functioning, we are bringing up the idea of the entity. Now, I am doing the walking, or I am doing the seeing. And I have the capacity of seeing. I can't start seeing or stop seeing, but because of the language, I assume that there is some sort of an ego or the me that actually does it, but there's nobody really doing it.
And going back to something you just said before, was like, you know, you might think of you as directing a choice of one birthday present over another, but you said the body was directing the digestion, but then the body has to have an entity to direct the digestion. So it's not you doing it, it's the body doing it.
Yeah.
Then does the body have a little man in there directing how to digest? You know,
So is it from the one source, right?
Yeah.
So
Just having-
I have a question. So does the source have a plan for like all the like entities that are being manifested?
You mean, is it thinking?
Is there a purpose?
A plan. So
Plan.
does the one source, like, so the one source makes this decision for all the all that is being manifested.
It's
So-
the one life that's functioning through everything, but thoughts come and go, so there's not the one thought, but there's just the thinking.
No, I mean the one.
No,
the
no, no.
source.
She's talking about the plan.
Just giving a source
Whether
entity.
the life or the source has the plan for every blade of grass or every tiger or every ant
Has it
or
like a
every
plan?
fly.
It doesn't have a plan, it's all spontaneous.
Yeah.
It's just
Timeless, you
thinking.
see.
Is it evolving?
To have a plan, you have to be in time.
Yeah.
And when you see time as a fiction also, it's spontaneous.
Okay, so it's just
When
in the
does now
moment,
begin?
Yeah.
Every moment.
Have a look at
Yeah.
it. When does now begin? You say it's beginning right now. When's it ending? Right now. So it hasn't got any duration. So that's what it's saying with all the functioning in this manifestation. It's all spontaneous. It's got no duration about any of it. It's not a billion light years or Big Bang or anything like that.
Okay.
That implies time again. You see?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, okay. So is it like just a never-ending show?
Yes.
Well, it's never beginning, are there?
Yeah.
It's spontaneous. There's no beginning, no ending to it. It's out of duration. All time is a duration.
Oh.
They call it lila, divine play. The divine game. It's just the source or the life is just playing out, expressing itself in many different ways, moment to moment, spontaneously, joyously.
Like
Right.
Bob says, you've only got now, you're not out of now.
Yeah.
And now just isn't got a set beginning or an end. It's just whatever. There's just an experience.
Yeah.
And right now, you know, there's just no next experience either.
Mm.
And
So
we
it's
die
like-
now.
Mm. And Tony, you mentioned the idea of evolution.
Yes.
I heard. Yeah. So Bob, you want to say anything about evolution? I can tell you, you know, your lungs are evolving right now, taking a breath, and then they're involving now, breathing out. So evolution is only in conceptual thinking. You can say that there is an evolution in some parts of the life and involution in some other. But if you don't think about it, is this moment is timeless. So evolution is a mental process that compares the past with the future and say there is improvement, so there is judgment involved
And
to
it's
say
different
that this is...
people have different
Of
ideas
course,
what
yeah.
judgments are involved in evolution.
Yeah, like you can say that, you know, someone who gets into drug addiction and is losing their capacities, or someone who even gets the Parkinson's disease and is losing the capacity, is the opposite to evolution. Or you can say child that is growing, see how much of the ideas it involves, how much of the comparison, mental ideas, comparison, judgments and ideas,
For someone else, evolution might just mean change, but then that still is some kind of story out of what's just here right now for this immediacy, in this immediacy.
So evolution is a change? You mean, because evolution obviously means that it's a change
Some might take it
into
as change
bigger
for the
complexity.
better, some might say just change.
But then they wouldn't call it evolution, because
Maybe I've always misunderstood evolution, but some people might be just less loaded, and some people more loaded. But other people might load other stuff in on top of that, you know. Some people might just be movement through time.
Yeah, so why don't they just call it movement through time?
I always thought that's what evolution
History.
was.
Is that history?
I don't know.
Yeah.
But any which way, you know, it's still an additional description beyond what is just here.
Is the
and
time,
you know, the roller coaster experience, you know, it's a description of the whole park instead of just sitting on the roller coaster. And you only notice what's on the roller coaster when you're on the ride.
Yeah.
You don't sit there and, like, you know, make a mental map of the park or Luna Park or whatever, the other stuff.
Yeah, so
Just
every
there for the
time
ride.
when the mental component is involved, like every time when the time comes up, like evolution, it includes the time. See how the space has been constructed through the, you know, the space is the reality. Now that reality of space, filtered through the body-mind mechanism, became a space of seeing, space of hearing, space of tasting, touching, smelling. It is kind of divided into different channels. Now the time comes only from the sixth sense, which is mind. There is no time in seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling. They only constitute the space, the illusion, the immediacy of this moment. There is no past and future in this immediacy. The time only comes from conceptualizing, from thinking, from imagination. Oh, that's the other cat. So time-space is appearance, is an illusion only.
Yes.
And evolution and everything that involves the conceptualizing, the imagination, is creating time, is mind. Time is mind. So if you ever want to ask question, how real is that? See how it is in the immediacy. Without time, if you actually take the mind out of it, take the time out of it.
I seem to follow the time as just a construct.
Absolutely, it's mental construct, yeah.
You know, my illusion.
It is, yeah. And it's quite amazing. Let's not underestimate the brilliance of it.
Yeah.
Like, as I said, for the space, for life, me as life, giving myself the capacity of thinking and capacity of packing the whole space multidimensionally with time, infinite amount of possibilities, because not only this immediacy that the senses are giving me, but also every image I can create regarding any other time than now, which is non-existent, but potentially when believed, it comes forth and it expresses itself in its full beauty.
So you can have great fun in this illusion.
Absolutely. What a fun.
Yeah.
Isn't, especially when you see through it,
Yeah.
especially when you
Yeah,
don't take it
especially.
seriously,
Yeah.
especially if you don't take the
Or
past in
even-
which someone hurt you
even
as something
pretending,
real.
You know, all this stuff
Yeah.
makes much easier. You know, that sort of fake it until you make it. You know, I really...
You are actually faking the opposite. You can't fake not being one with life, because you are. You're just faking to be a separate entity. So it's not fake it till you make it. Stop faking it. Be who you are. Nisargadatta says, have the courage to be who you are and live as who you are, and stop pretending to be anything else.
Does it not look like the cat's having a rich experience or having that satisfaction
Well, I can
of
just
just
see a
following?
bit of a tail thing hanging out of
But
it.
it also looks like it's having the experience of following curiosity. You remember when you were a
Yeah.
kid and you ran off to check something out? There was just
You know,
follow the curiosity. You
I
didn't
love
do
watching
anything
these
else, you know.
cats here.
Yeah.
When they get into stuff
How are
and
you?
then Bob throws a cushion
I
at
think it's curious about me because it probably hasn't seen me before.
Oh,
Is
yeah.
it? Ah,
But I find when I look at them,
no, it doesn't. It never pays any attention to me.
You're sitting too far away for it to.
No, but I've sort of, you know, tried to entice it. Probably no less. It's a cat, but it, you know, like Shiroko.
but I always also find the urge to look at the cat as a empty everything pointer. You know, just every now and then there's a movement.
Yeah.
To look at the cat,
Yeah.
and there's a remembering of what it's like to not be thinking about stuff like the cat is.
Yeah.
So it's not meaning making, and so then that clears my meaning making. It goes away. You know, just from looking at the cat.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Why not use everything? I mean, use
Yeah.
everything
It
as a
just turns
reminder.
up, and there's just no sense of me using it whatsoever for me. It's
Oh, of
just always a
course, it
turning
is.
up. Yeah.
Yeah, but actually recognizing the whole appearance as one. You know, the cat is a fantastic demonstration of that one life. It doesn't take credit for the life that is living it. It doesn't think that it has anything to do with whatever is happening. It doesn't think at all. So everything else, I mean, you can use the cat, but you can even use the chair you are sitting on as a reminder.
Right now that you've mentioned it.
Every single form and every single shape is a reminder of the formless.
Chair is empty of thought, that's true.
Everything appears in the space. Everything that is seen because of that being or that space. So ultimately, when you actually recognize the appearance for what it is, every single form in the appearance is actually being the vibration of the emptiness. It can bring you back to the reality.
Did that for me 4 times in that last minute.
Wonderful.
It,
yeah.
And I was able to go there. I was able to do an emptying. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And see how the chair is enjoying its being. It also has a being. It's quite solid.
I don't know. I don't seem to be able to imagine that one, but
you don't need to imagine it. You can just see it's there.
Get mimicked here, mirrored, but
he is there.
What's that? Hi, chair. What do you say? I forgot what you said about it.
No. It doesn't have any sentience, so it's not gonna engage in conversation with you.
That's because I work with these kids, and it's just part of the track with the autistic kids, and so it's just I guess to encourage shared attention. Buy bridge, buy buildings, or various other things. So we do it. So.
Why not? I mean, it may not have sentience, but it is all made of the same life, all the same life essence that constitutes everything. So we can't say that it is dead.
I mean, it always used to attract me too. I used to write short stories about rocks. They were the main characters. And they were always wondering why these tall, skinny things were running about so fast. And I just always loved that, putting personalities in objects, because it just made humans, just de-storied in a way. It deconstructed humans, and I really liked that. Even 20, 30 years, 40 years before, 46 years before I even came across non-duality.
Yeah, I had the non-duality school in India that I was learning from. The guru had the analogy about the rocks, actually the walls that had human sort of a consciousness, and it was a wonderful illustration on all the labels. Like, imagine you are the wall, and people stick labels on it, the big advertisements or placards or whatever. You don't take credit for it. You don't worry about that. What anybody else is thinking about you, who cares? Yeah, he had
become a story. I've read stories about people astro travelling into a war. They didn't know where it was, and it seemed really sad, and it didn't want them to leave. And later on they found it was an Auschwitz wall, but then they could make all these stories about it being a human wall. They could make up anything really about what was simply an experience in that moment, with no boundaries.
yeah, creative imagination. What a fun. Only when you start believing it and taking it seriously. Like my little stories from 20 years ago about the seriousness of drinking juices with sugar and make you look ridiculous. I mean, believing in anything.
Drink juices with sugar in, or?
They've added sugar.
Yeah, added sugar.
They are sugary.
Oh, there is sugar in everything today. But anyway,
I have all these.
Everything that you take seriously. I mean, politics. I mean, any cause that you take deadly seriously make you a fanatic. And as a fanatic, you're dangerous. You start converting other people. You're ready to fight and die for your beliefs. I mean, come on, they're not even your beliefs. They're just viruses that have stolen this scenery, that basic screen. The virus of the mind brought and kidnapped the scene. It's almost as if like imposter that, like.
Now, do you recycle and do those things?
Sometimes, I mean, yeah.
It's just a bunch of thoughts and a bunch of actions now, isn't it?
That's right, but you know what?
I tend to do all those things.
Of course, we have the containers for recycle, and we have, it doesn't. It's just an action, and also it doesn't mean that if we have certain habits of keeping a household, or certain habits of doing things less harmful, or more healthy. It doesn't mean they are our. Yeah.
Just not.
But without
reason.
really making it very, very serious. When it's natural and it's easy, and because Bob was very health conscious all his life, and I was kind of environmentally conscious also, then when the thought arrived to actually, you know, prevent animal suffering or whatever it is, or avoid dairy because of the joint inflammation and stuff like this, that type of thoughts, they resonate with the natural pattern that is in the body, and because of that natural resonance, then the action comes up. We stop eating butter or cheese or whatever, but it's not something that I will go and convert other people, or I will go with the sword and fire and die for it. It's just something that with this particular mechanism, and he is health conscious also, he used to have health food stores. So that type of thoughts, they kind of naturally find home and they exercise action. And there is not a me that is accepting this thought and rejecting the other thought, or is resonating with this thought, or no, it's nobody home. It's just body-mind mechanism that is responding to certain triggers and not responding to the other, that is receptive to certain music or certain foods and not receptive to the other. It's just a biocomputer that naturally, spontaneously works with whatever the environment, you know, it's one. It's really one with the environment. So whatever the pattern is there of responses will be engaging in the pre-programmed way.
So in most moments, there'll be a bunch of, like, you could say chemicals or energy in Bob, that if someone put a plate of chips in front of him, there's a smile, like it's really smile, and yes please, you know, or I won't say no, or whatever, I don't know what he says, but
that's exactly it. The same
most
way.
Most moments that probably happens because that's just been the evidence.
And absolutely, the same way the cat will get, you know, the ginger cat will get the bowl of beef and it will get a smile on the face, apart from the fact that they don't have muscles to smile, but you will know. And the other cat reacts to different food. Yes, and it's nobody home. It's no ego in the cat. It's just spontaneous happening.
There's nobody home.
Yeah, lights on.
And that's what people used to think was the phrase for an idiot, but actually it's a phrase for awakening.
Don't animals have egos too?
If you define ego as the personality, yes, they do have personality, absolutely. But ego, the way spirituality often identifies it, is not the personality pattern, but the identification with personality. It's like, I have the personality, Bob has the personality, everything, even animals have personality. But now saying that I am my personality, that's the ego.
Okay, because there's a friend who's got a dog that becomes very jealous. Another dog gets patted.
Yeah.
Really puts on a turn, and to all intents and purposes, it's a very jealous dog.
So does it have an ego in that case?
Or
like if the dog is jealous of other dogs?
It's not like what Kat said, you know, it's really a biomechanical, you know, it's really just energy doing stuff.
So they're not identifying with themselves.
Well,
it's just a bunch of habits, bunch of
survival
training,
instinct.
You know, training.
But we don't have egos either. But it's only when we learn words and put labels on that I, instead of just saying I is a basic. Everything is I, you know, that's the basic. But when you say I'm Bob, I'm an Australian, I'm this, that, and the other, that's the ego is a personal, conceptual one, made up of thoughts, ideas. And it's a fiction. That's what we relate to. Because our school, society and friends and peers all reinforcing that ego, and we reinforce it ourselves every day.
So animals, like, it's just automatically, like, like their behavior is inherent, but they don't have an ego, even if they get jealous of other animals.
Yeah, absolutely, and so do us. I mean, this what Bob just said, that we don't have ego either. I remember the situation. It was actually a live situation, that there was some sort of a jealousy playing out in certain moment, and it was Bob that it was playing out through. And I say, hey, are you jealous? This is ridiculous. This is crazy. There is no reason, and it's such a human pattern. It's an ego. And he says, yeah, look at the wild animals. Look at the lions. You know what are they doing? They have all their harem of lioness, and when there is a delta lion flying around the pack, they will chase it away. Does it mean that they have an ego? No, it's a natural instinct of protecting the tribe. And doesn't mean that there is a human ego playing out or human jealousy playing out. Because as he says, and he totally means it, ego is a fiction. It doesn't exist. Ego is only believed in. It only exists because we say it exists, just the way children believe in Santa Claus. They say, oh, of course Santa Claus is real, because they believe it. But when they investigate and when they grow up a little bit and they find out that Santa Claus is not real, it's just a belief. And the same thing with the ego. Now, as we know that the ego is not an entity, there is nothing there, it doesn't mean that the jealousy, the anger, the sadness, it doesn't mean that this
comes from the ego.
Yeah, they don't come from ego. They just, like the weather, really. Sadness is like the gray clouds on the sky. Or the anger is like the volcano erupting, or the stormy clouds on the sky. So the clouds don't belong, the nature doesn't have the ego. It doesn't say this is a nice weather because there is no ego, this is bad weather because there is an ego. Same inside, this body is responding to some triggers with anger or irritability. Bob is responding to other things with anger or irritability. But that's not his anger. That's just the weather, passing weather. So when the anger comes up, it really usually lasts maybe a couple of minutes and it goes away and it disappears, the sky clears up. Or when the sadness comes up or anything else. Actually, I had for last 3 years, because for me it's still very young, that realization. When I came across sadness because the cat died or whatever, I actually found it pretty amazing. I said, oh my God, it's just such a tenderness in it. It's such a sweetness in it. It's sadness that was absolutely beautiful. I didn't want it to go. I mean, I was happy to cry. I was happy to experience sadness because it wasn't mine. If this years back, I believed that this is mine and I hate this feeling. I need to do something about it. I need to get some chocolate or get drunk or whatever. Do something not to feel what is there. But right now, whatever shows up, whether it's a sunny day or it's a cloudy day or it's a rainy day or it's a sadness or it's a joy or it's... They're all not mine. They're all just beautiful weather to watch.
Yeah. And also the concept of ego is a 20th century one with a bunch of aspects to it. Medieval times, they have a spirit, and that has a different bunch of aspects, probably a whole lot less actually, or a different bunch. Or, there'll be other eras, the cavemen, who know what they thought, of anything. It's just so conceptual.
Yes.
Yeah.
And also the ego only came up with the development of the psychology. Before that, before psychology even had the language for it, there was no ego because there was no language.
But when they described it, it sort of made sense.
Because you instantaneously believed it.
Well,
I mean, till today...
Like pointed out something.
But till today, there is a lot of arguing around ego and a lot of misunderstanding because for many people it does not make sense. They just believe it blindly. Like what Valerie just said, is the ego personality? Well, not exactly. It is identification with personality.
Sort of, like people who are good with words can make it.
But see what a huge difference is that? Like, is it
sort of adds a richness or something,
No. If you
That's
think
what
that
you're
ego
saying,
is,
imagination,
if you think
What
ego is
wonderful.
personality, then ego is real. That's it. That's a
Well,
difference of day and
personality,
night.
Persona, I go along with that.
Yeah, but is it real?
No.
There you go. And then people have definition of the ego that makes it absolutely real. And
I think what
and
Carl's started to say that when you're just in a moment and experiencing a wow that anything even exists, and I'm just talking from the head now because it's a
You'll
long
become
time.
a wowser, watch out.
Yeah, I mean that's just a head statement. It's a wee while since I felt that particular one, but yeah, she's just saying like the wow, this, my God, this is here, this exists. Oh my God, just what's just here. She's saying that's way more than the flatness of an imagination. Yeah. But you can tell that much better. Her and Bob would say that much better than me because it's a bit empty for me to say that.
Bob
right
is
now.
ostentatiously again pulling out his equipment, so it means that we are over time. So thank you very
Well, it
much.
wasn't working half it, so I'll have to take it up and get it checked out again.
Oh.